Can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank God.
Yo, do you have that? You have that Jeff Howard interview?
I do. I'm pulling it up. They just forwarded it to me. I'm gonna save it here in 2
Oh, so we'll do that like 1:30.
That's perfect. Yep.
Okay.
You guys ready?
Coming to you live from Browns headquarters in Berea, Ohio. This is Cleveland Browns Daily.
Just when they thought they got rid of me, they pull me back in.
Let's go.
Bishop and Nathan Zegura.
Let's go. You guys are up.
All right, let's do it live on a First Friday Miracle Schedule Release edition of Cleveland Browns Daily. Merely Beau, the great Z. How about this, buddy? And you got the big show tonight. The big show, the full schedule release.
The full Monty, as they call it in the biz. That's right. That's at 7:30.
The
Browns
full Monty,
Live.
you and Hoff?
Me, the Hoff, Jadeveon Clowney will be there. We will drop the schedule, the full Browns schedule, before it is dropped anywhere else. That happens tonight on Browns Live. Not to mention, if you hit me up on Twitter and use the hashtag Browns Live, we'll get to your questions on the show live as well. But some things already out. The NFL saying, we're gonna.
You don't say.
We're gonna give you week 1 right out of the gate. I love it.
Can we just acknowledge this about the NFL? The National Football League, which is without question the dominant sport in this country.
It's a dominant brand, period,
from a
of anything.
I don't have a problem with that. That they, by a pretty wide margin, that they decided that we are going to be in the news in a major way every couple of weeks for the entire offseason, whether it's the combine or free agency or the draft or schedule release. Okay. We are going to dominate the morning news cycle. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to go on CBS This Morning. We're going to go on Fox and Friends. We're going to go on, probably we're on Good Morning America. I'm sure they were on the Today Show. And we're going to let you guys unveil your Week 1 games. So this morning, you got those officially unveiled by CBS and the NFL and Fox, and that was great. But then they said, we are also going to dominate your night. So while you want to see, we obviously by 9 o'clock this morning, you knew that we were opening against Kansas City. But we are going to have the full schedule for the teams at 7:30, and then our network is going to do a special at 8, and that's going to go there.
That's right.
And in between, little things are going to leak out, like Christmas Day games and primetime games and opponents and dates, and these things are going to leak out. And much of it will likely be true and be verified by that time. Some of it will be. And that being said, so if that wasn't enough, NBA. So you had the little Christmas Day thing. Well, that's cute. That was cute. How about how you like these apples? Let's drop a little Browns and Packers upside your melon. You like that? Does that treat you well? I mean, it is an incredible. What is out now is incredible. I can't wait to see what you guys do tonight at 6:30, but what is out now is incredible, and it's just an incredible reminder of how big this league is and how powerful it is.
Yeah, they've turned this into a ridiculous all-day event on multiple networks and media platforms, and it is exciting, though. You want to know how it goes, and I think for Browns fans, you want to know, obviously, about your division games. You want to know about, the primetime games or national games, and so far, what we have had reported, right, we know the one is confirmed, Browns at the Chiefs. So the Browns season will begin where their last season ended, at Arrowhead Stadium, Kansas City Chiefs. You want to test your new defense? You want to test it against the best offense in the NFL? Well, we're not going to get a whole lot of time together. We're going to go right in there week 1. We'll test out their new offensive line, by the way. That'll get a test, and our defense will get a test against the Kansas City Chiefs. And then the other thing that is at least being reported at this time, you mentioned the Christmas Day games, which would be for the first time ever in Browns history. Let's go. That's right. We're going straight to Green Bay, Wisconsin. That's what they're saying anyway, to take on the Packers on Christmas Day, which is, I mean, that's as prime time game as it gets. That is the NFL saying, we believe this is marquee stuff. We're putting you on. Packers, Browns. Also says to me, the NFL's feeling pretty good about Aaron Rodgers being in Green Bay.
Yes.
But I don't know if that's
reportedly
going to be the
have
case.
a lot of night games for the Green Bay football team. Yeah, I mean, it is a bright light being shined upon us. There's all sorts of I hazard to call some of it reporting because some of it isn't from verified stuff. You don't know what's what, and we'll never know officially until tonight, other than the Kansas City game. But a lot of in the primetime windows for us that you're starting to see out and about throughout the social if you pay attention to that. I thought there was a very good chance that we would open with Kansas City. I thought it would be Sunday Night Football. But what I failed to do, and it's a bad job out of me,
CBS
is
has a
if
choice.
Sunday Night Football, they're going to get the choice. So because Sunday Night Football moved to Thursday and they got Buccaneers-Cowboys, Nance Romo, CBS said, we want this one. That's us, week 1, 425.
So there are a lot of curses at stake here, okay? Not only do you have the week 1, which has been the season opener, has been unkind to the Browns for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
Nance Romo has been a
very unkind.
We have been unkind to Jim Nance. He is willing us to put forth a great performance for him, and we have not done it. But that is what we're going to open up. And listen, why not? 2 birds, 1 stone is a way that I like to go about things. So why not take that chance? You got that chance clearly week 1 here against Mahomes and Kansas City. I love that this is the one we get to dive into because you remade your secondary. I think, and we talked about it, a lot of the moves on defense were made to handle the Chiefs. That's the team that's the team of record in the AFC of late. That's the team that has been in the AFC Championship game 3 straight years. It's a team that's won it the last 2 years. They've won a Super Bowl as well. So that is a team that you need to be able to deal with, and you're not going to get a whole lot of work to get ready for it, but there you go. Where are we? Have we improved significantly on the defensive side of the ball week 1? We'll get a little bit of an answer.
It's such a fun game.
Oh, it's so
to start.
fun.
It's this early in the season. I mean, look what happened last year against Baltimore. It seems like a big one when you're in the moment, but in retrospect, it's not. It's just a really fun. It's an awesome, fun way to start the season. To go down there to take on the team that's been the best in the NFL most of the last 3 years, and to get a chance to play them with all the fireworks they have offensively, with our the new acquisitions we have defensively, and see where you are, but also realize that if you lose it, it's not like playing Kansas City, in December when potentially a home field or something is, or you're playing for the 1 seed. It's so early in the year that it's really just a fun opener. I mean, it is, and I think it's an awesome way. I think it speaks to a couple of things, and I think the reported Christmas Day game speaks to this as well. And you see this all the time with Ohio State. The Cleveland Browns brand, and this is remarkable because obviously the success wasn't there for 20 plus years. But the Cleveland Browns brand, it's a ratings hog in the same way that the Ohio State brand. You put Ohio State on, it's a brand winner. You put us on in primetime, record ratings. It's just what we are. And there are so many Ohio expats around the country. You think of the people we interact with on the show around the globe, dare I say world's team. You think about all of that, and you say if you're the NFL, there's nothing that's going to deliver more eyes, and especially that reported Christmas Day game. You're going to be going up against probably some amalgamation of the Lakers and whichever team all the stars went to this offseason in the NBA. I mean, that'll be the head-to-head. Will be that, and you will crush them. You will crush them. And so you take 2 football places like Green Bay and Cleveland, you put them on Christmas, that will crush.
Yeah,
crush.
Of course it is. And that is, while that is not going to be, whenever we see the final schedule and we go through and we count the primetime games, that won't be quote-unquote primetime, but that's got to count. That's a national TV game. That, in my opinion, that's yes. bigger than being a Thursday or a Monday or a Sunday.
Too.
That is as marquee a game as the NFL has to offer on this slate, if that is indeed the case. Has been widely reported the Browns travel to Green Bay on Christmas.
If that happens, I think that's the game that the NFL has the most to gain on the NBA, because the NBA cornered the market on Christmas Day a while ago. It was really smart of them. And there's even talk of them opening their season on Christmas Day, that they would use it almost like as an opening day and shift their schedule a little bit. They haven't. But this would be, that's cute. Throw your Lakers and Nets out. How can I interest you in Packers-Browns? That's what that is. And it's a pretty big trump card to throw down on the table.
It certainly is. But there seems to be a great deal of faith that Aaron Rodgers will be playing there, which I think is one of the great offseason sagas still to go.
Yeah, to me, so I was thinking about this because we'll go through the rest of the confirmed Week 1 schedule for around the league because there's some interesting games. I mean, they did a nice job. They did a really nice job with the Week 1 schedule. It's very, very interesting. But the other part of that was, and I was curious your take on this out of the gates. I'm more confident that Aaron Rodgers is quarterbacking the Packers, reportedly against us on Christmas, than I am Deshaun Watson going against the guy who followed him once removed at Clemson in Week 1 for Houston. So the Jaguars play at Houston Week 1. I think it's more likely that Rodgers is playing for Green Bay against us than it is that Deshaun Watson plays for Houston against Jacksonville.
Now, did you see the report yesterday that he's going to be settling with his accusers?
I did, but I saw Albright quickly
said
shut
that's
that
not
down.
true. No, I did not. That
not
part of it I did not see. I'll say this: I got a text from somebody who I would consider to have pretty good ties to the Green Bay organization that said he is 100% done. It's over.
I mean, A.J. Hawk, who's as close as can be, said that it's done. But I just think it's a lot to walk away from. I mean, A.J. was with him at the Derby. I just find it.
The problem is
I don't know.
They wouldn't take
so
the number
hard.
3 pick, right? They could have taken
right.
That was on the not necessarily maybe never formerly on the table, but if they wouldn't take that, what could Denver possibly put together right now that would entice them to do it?
Just do it. Patrick Surtain, KJ Hamler, 3 1s, next 3 1s. I mean, they don't need Drew Lock. They obviously like Jordan Love. I mean, they don't need him. So I think that's what it would start with. Give me a tight end, maybe.
I don't know if they do like Jordan Love.
Well, they better.
I don't know if they do. Devontae Adams said he's out of there if Rodgers is gone, so he doesn't like what he's seen from him throwing the football. He doesn't think he's going to make him a lot of money.
I mean, if he doesn't play for Green Bay, then you'd almost wonder, can they flex that out? Because would you want that? Like if it's Green Bay with Jordan Love or Drew Lock, that does not have – I mean, Rodgers needs to be there for them. I feel – and I know what people are saying. I heard A.J. say what he said. I totally trust that your source would be somebody who's dialed in, obviously. Your sources are unimpeachable.
Well,
I just think when
it
comes to it –
unimpeachable would mean it was Aaron Rodgers, so it is not unimpeachable.
Not quite unimpeachable. Not from the horse's mouth, as it were. But I just think that when it comes down to it, are you going to leave all that money on the table, and is he going to – are you just going to stop playing football at 38? I mean, I think it's funny when people are like, yeah, he can just go host Jeopardy. That's a pretty coveted job, hosting Jeopardy. And he was fine at it, but he's not a game show host.
Right. He's a quarterback.
Like this notion, he'll just go get the Jeopardy job. Well, how do you know Jeopardy wants him? They're trying out a lot of people.
It's right. He's the reigning MVP. That's what he
right.
is. He is.
Yeah. He's a football player. Yeah. So,
boy,
that's where I am with that. Going to be fun, but it's exciting, and it's really exciting to see us with Kansas City and that stage.
I love that.
Again, it's fun. It's fun.
It's going to be
it's
rocking.
a fun trip.
Great atmosphere.
Yeah.
Incredible atmosphere.
It's a fun trip. It'll be full. Have you been there? I've not been there for an NFL game. I've been there for a college game, not an NFL game.
I was there for a game. It must have been towards the end of 2015. Yeah, that makes sense. 2015, we would have played in Kansas City. Johnny Manziel started the game. Almost had a valiant comeback. I remember Jeremy Maclin was the receiver of note for the Chiefs at that time. Alex Smith was the quarterback.
Okay.
And they were a solid football team. They won that day, but I remember thinking that the environment there at Arrowhead was awesome. I thoroughly enjoyed being on the sidelines for that one. I will hopefully be back. I'm assuming, for full stadiums that I would be back there.
Full stadiums,
for,
I think we'd
for
have
week
you back.
one.
Yeah.
next year. I'm thrilled about that. And for the Browns, it's a statement opportunity, but it is not a game that if the Browns start season 0-1 where everybody's like, oh, my goodness, the sky's falling, which is a nice, very similar to last year, except I think we'll be significantly more competitive, and I like our chances to win this game. I think that it's certainly in play. You know, last year was a difficult situation for us. They're running it back.
And I think it's even less pressure. It's almost more house money because it's not a division game.
Correct.
So there's not even this sense of like, oh, my God, we can't win the division. We lost to Baltimore. And now you lose to a division opponent, it's like 2 losses. So it doesn't even have that. Like, the only thing this one comes back to haunt you is at the end of the year it comes back if it's a home field situation or, like in that sense. I mean, every game's huge. But that's why I use the word fun. It's really fun. It's a fun opener.
Jake Burns, who we've had on the show a few times, had a great point. This Browns roster, top 2 roster in the league. This Browns team, they're real Super Bowl contenders. They've crushed the offseason. They crushed the draft. Mm-hmm. How do you get yourselves to be the underdog headed into the 2021 season? How do you get that man?
Play them.
Play the Chiefs in week 1. Nobody's giving us a chance. We're touchdown underdogs in week 1. I mean, you couldn't. I'm sure Stefanski couldn't have asked for a better week 1 opponent than that.
No. Mm-mm. No, it's a dream. It's a dream opponent.
I'm curious to see too how do the division games play compared to last year, where it was completely loaded, early and then late. You started with the division, and then you got into the middle of the season. I think it was, 5-7. They kind of only won in the first quarter, but then late you were chock full of division. I wonder how that's going to be this year. I wonder if there are any
Well, let's see. So Green Bay theoretically would be, if that is true, that would be week 16.
So there are 2 games after that,
So you could go division
I would imagine
close.
you would.
Could go Pittsburgh, Baltimore, or Pittsburgh, Cincinnati to close, something like that.
I would imagine you would.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. I mean, there's all sorts of reporting out there about the Broncos game, the Vikings game, and some of it's being retweeted by beat writers in those towns. But I think the next big thing that you want to know, and it's something that, of course, you'll have tonight on Browns Live, first is who are you opening with? Who's the home opener? Anytime you look at a schedule, who do we open with? Where are the marquee road games?
Yep.
Who are we playing at home? But who's the home opener? Who is the home opener? And I haven't seen that out anywhere to this point, and it certainly won't be official until you tell us about it at 6:30 with the Hoff.
Yes. 7:30 tonight, 7:30.
7:30, sorry, 7:30.
That's all right. It's
good.
Yeah, you want to know that. You want to know your prime times. You want to know when the road trips are. The one road trip that we have that I think is on everybody's radar, is, this is when we could build a trip around, is L.A., right? That's up for the Chargers.
I think it would have been Green Bay. If the Green Bay game would have been in October, let's say it's in October. Let's say you play Green Bay in October.
Mm-hmm.
And you go, you're because now with Christmas, that is not going to be the ticket it was for people. I mean, that was going to be, if that game would have been in October, that would have been the hardest tickets in the NFL, because I think it would have been almost a pilgrimage, bucket list for Browns fans. You could have tied it in. I mean, I'm just thinking off the top of my head. I tie it into a Whistling Straits. I tie it into.
What about the good folks on this station? What about Sam Pines and the boys wanting to go back to Wisconsin?
Yeah.
It's a tougher sell now. It's a tougher. Are you going to leave your family at Christmas?
Yeah, during the holidays. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I think in October, if that Green Bay game would have been October 1 or something like that, that would have had the chance to be just an incredible weekend, where you could even tie it in a Wisconsin game if you wanted to. If you're into golf, Whistling Straits. What's the other one up there that they have? Wolf something.
I don't know. I've never been.
Yeah.
I've never been fortunate to get on that one. Aaron Hills.
Well, Aaron Hills is up there.
Great.
That hosts the U.S. Open. So you'd have Aaron Hills. You have Whistling Straits. There's another one up there that I think hosted a PGA. I mean, you could have done stuff like that. With Christmas, I just think there won't be many Browns fans making that trip. That's family, man. It's just a tough time of year, for a big tailgate, I would say. So
yes.
I think that one changes that a little bit. I'm with you. I think L.A. is the road trip of record now. and going out there to play the Chargers. That's kind of the one you're looking at.
And do you want that in if you had your druthers, you want that November, December, I'm thinking, right? So you can,
of course,
get that.
Yes, save me. Make it December 12th.
Yeah, give me a little nice weather there. Sure.
Right. Yeah. Let's see what that looks like. So those are the things that I think are that you'll be paying attention to. And we're going to get into all of this over the course of the next couple of hours. We will have an exclusive interview that Z did with our defensive backs coach Jeff Howard. That is coming up in about 15 minutes from now. Brook Pryor will join us at 2:30 as we go behind enemy lines with Steelers as they head into their rookies reporting. We are off and running on a scheduled release first Friday Miracle edition of Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
Dude, where'd it go again?
I don't know what's going on. We're having some cell phone issues.
Let me know.
Just sexy. Just hold on just a second.
You guys ready?
God almighty. This is crazy. Yeah, we're good. I'll make that.
All right, you're up.
All right, that was your OBM Hot Topics, Ohio Business Machine for competent provider of your Cleveland Browns. Of all the X's and O's for your office, you can call 216-485-2000 or visit ohiobusinessmachines.com. The schedule started to be leaked out. Week 1 is in the books. Just from our standpoint, from a divisional standpoint, obviously us at Kansas City is the headliner, Z, but also a really fun one in Buffalo as Buffalo will be hosting Pittsburgh in that game. And also you have the Vikings Cincinnati involved in a fun game there as well, my friend, and also Baltimore with a little bit of fun.
Yeah, Monday Night Football, Baltimore in Las Vegas, which for their fans is they probably said, "Oh boy,
the win."
Let's go ahead. Tickets are being booked right now, Baltimore to Vegas for week 1 there. Yeah, that's kind of a look around the division. The Bengals, the only team playing at home in week 1 in the AFC North. A tough one, as we said, with Kevin Stefanski's former team, the Minnesota Vikings, who happen to be on our schedule this year with a game in Minnesota at some point.
Yeah, do you remember if Cincinnati off the top of your head, they must have played at home last year to open too, huh? They make them go road to start the year.
No, I'm sure they played at home then. Didn't they play
Right.
am I mistaken? Did they play the Chargers in week 1? Is that possible?
That does seem possible to me. Seems very possible. We're having some crazy internet situations here at the home front, my friends.
Yeah,
We're doing
what's
the best
going on?
we can, but I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Warp
I don't
speed,
understand
let's
it.
go.
Yeah, I mean, it says we're hooked up. I don't know why we're acting like we're not.
Yeah, it was the
I don't know what
Chargers.
problem is.
Remember, it was the
Chargers
Chargers.
at home?
They called A.J. Green on a push-off on a late touchdown from Joe Burrow, and then I believe they
That's
missed a
right.
kick to tie it and ended up losing 16-13.
There you go.
Their season last
So
year, they
they-
started 16-13 loss to the Chargers, 35-30 loss to us in a game that was very much in the balance. They
Very frisky.
They tie the Eagles 23-23 in Philly, and then they beat the Jags 33-25. They were a couple bounces of the balls and calls away from being 4-0 after 4 games last year.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it was one of those, like when the Burrow injury happened. Up until that point, now he was getting hit a lot, but they were footloose and fancy free. I mean, you thought they'd be a squad that was going to be. I mean, they were tough. It was a full day for us.
They lost in week 5, 27-3 to the Ravens. They lose 31-27 on the road to the Colts, who we had just beat the week before in a very tough game here at First Energy Stadium. Then they lose to us 37-34 in a game that could have easily been a Bengals win. That was Baker Mayfield to Donovan Peoples-Jones. And then they beat the Titans 31-20, another playoff team. And then the injury happened, and it was good night, Irene. They score 10-9, 17-7, 7 in the next 5 games before that crazy win over the Steelers on that, was it Monday night or Thursday night, where they beat the Steelers 27-17.
Yeah. So, I mean, it sets up for a pretty amazing
So I
first
said
weekend
they're
of
frisky,
football.
man. They're not.
They are.
They're not bad.
offensively, they're with Jamar Chase, they are legitimately a concern. You will need everybody we sign in the secondary. You'll need every bit of them because Boyd, Chase, Higgins, Mixon, that's a full day. That's a full day right there. And Burrow's so good. He's so good. I mean, that's going to be a really fun game. He's coming off the injury, so you got to think of this from a football fan perspective. It's hard to do better than Bucks Cowboys to open it. That's pretty dang good to open it. It was going to have to be the Bucks. So who are you going to put them against that's got more juice than the Cowboys?
I know, but it's like I feel like the Cowboys for a long time they've got the juice, but then you drink it and you're like, this is like water with some concentrate.
I don't disagree with you, but they are, I think the better analogy for them right now would be they are like a really good German chocolate cake where it's delicious, but there's really no substance to it. Like, they're not going to be a team of significance, but they'll be fun to watch, and you'll be excited to see the stars on the helmets, and they're going to have a lot of weapons, and they'll throw it all over the place. Like, they'll put on a good show. Look at our game with them last year. I mean, they're going to give up 45 to Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
But it'll be fun to watch them do it. They'll score 38. I mean, they're going to score.
Yeah, they will be an
You got
entertaining
that.
team. No doubt.
Yeah, that's a good one. You got the early window. You'd be fascinated to watch your two division opponents leading into our game. You got Buffalo and Pittsburgh, and then Cincinnati and Minnesota. You got our game. The Sunday night game is the Rams with Stafford for the first time out, and then Fields potentially, I would think.
Yep.
Would be Fields, right? And then Monday Night Football, just one game this year, which I actually like the Monday night doubleheader to kick it off. But just one game this year, and it's Ravens and Raiders.
I'm fine
that's-
with no
that's it.
doubleheader because
You don't like it week one?
how much of the 10, 15 kick did you watch? The first half?
It's not so much that I like that. I like the early kick for the first game.
Sure, fair. But I'll watch all of that
Yeah.
first game. I'll watch, and I'll end up consuming probably.
Well, it's Ravens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ravens,
It's
Vegas.
Ravens, so.
The first opening of Vegas. Come on, you see the story? They've got a club in there, bottle service, DJs.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. We're going to have a lot of fun with this. And Brook Pryor will join us to go behind enemy lines with the Steelers coming up in the second hour of the program. Hey, guys, imagine kicking back in the evenings in your very own hot tub.
Yes.
Now imagine actually being able to afford one. Northeast Factory Direct buys hot tubs by the truckload. You get a 6-person hot tub with the lounger, the lights, and still afford your summer activities. Think about owning a hot tub. You think it would be a pain? Well, at Northeast Factory Direct, the hot tubs come with an exclusive hard top cover, so you don't have to worry about safety or convenience. Plus, you're going to get a lifetime warranty on that cover. Guys, I was at the hot tub center with Northeast Factory Direct. These are so easy to take on and off. It's Bootsy could pull it off. It's that good, and they are that firm. Looking for a way to stay active? They also have the amazing swim spas. It's like a hot tub, but you adjust the jets. Gentle current. You can use them year-round. Go see it for yourself. West 140th Street in Cleveland, Lakewood Boulevard in Euclid, or Freeway Drive in Macedonia, or shop it online anytime at northeastfactorydirect.com. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
Take advantage of the flat.
Great friends at Weather Seal Home Services. Are you having problems with your roof? Call Weather Seal Home Services now. Get a beautiful new roof in just 1 week for just $1 down. Free gutters during the Weather Seal Spring Roofing Sale. At Weather Seal, you get up to 7 years interest, 0 interest rather, with approved credit. It's an incredible deal. Reducing your monthly payment, you'll be shocked at what it will be. Trust in Weather Seal to do the job. The best price, the lowest monthly payments. It's as simple as that. Don't call anyone else. Call 877-351-SEAL or go to weathersealhomeservices.com. One man who is very happy is our defensive backs coach, Jeff Howard. Here is Nathan, one-on-one with Coach.
Very happy now to be joined by a man who's...
You guys are down. 19 minutes here.
Jeff Howard.
Nathan
And, Coach, what an offseason for you. I was going through...
Yeah, that's fine.
You can have a starting nickel secondary right now that is, I think, frankly, pretty good of guys who didn't play a snap for you last year, which would be Greg Newsome and Greedy outside, Troy Hill inside, John Johnson at one safety, and Grant Delpit at the other. So that's got to be pretty exciting to you because you add them to, obviously, the great Denzel Ward and Ronnie Harrison, who played so well for you last year, MJ Stewart and others. But that's kind of an unbelievable transformation in your room in one offseason.
Yeah. Definitely going to be definitely is some new faces in the room. Great to get those guys here. Been really impressed, with our limited time with them thus far. Loved all their tape, enjoyed watching them play. And, we're on to the process of trying to be the best we can in 2021.
And I'm sure you're going to be advocating. Now, Joe Woods told us on Browns Daily a few weeks ago that, last year you played 16 snaps of dime. His goal is to play 400-plus snaps of dime. And so that would be six DBs. And you got 3 or 4 corners you love. You got 3 or 4 safeties that you love, trying to get those guys all on the field together. So I'm sure you're excited about getting to unleash a defense that you probably thought you were going to get to play a lot more last year, but now we'll have the personnel to do it this year.
That was kind of a great thing moving forward is you can't ask for enough DBs. I learned that early in my career is when they ask you how many corners do you need, you always say one more. And that's kind of the way that we felt last year. And we were able to bring some guys in. And, I'm going to always advocate for playing as many of my guys as possible and getting as much speed as we can on the field.
So last time we talked was after kind of the free agency process, before the draft and before you were able to get into the meetings and everything. So just kind of early, John Johnson III seems like such a natural leader. How has he kind of stepped in those meetings? Troy Hill as well. And then obviously returning, Grant and Greedy. Yeah,
it's kind of a unique situation right now because we're still virtual. So you got guys still at their house. So we try to, navigate that just with new guys in the room. They're trying to feel it out. You're not really in person. So it's been a challenge, but, we try to get those guys talking to one another and, they got group texts going to one another, trying to feel it out. I feel like it's going to be great when we actually are able to get into the room together and really get onto the field. And that's really what I'm excited about is, getting these pieces together, letting them play with one another and, kind of just see what we've got built.
All right, let's go now to the draft, and let's talk for a second about Greg Newsome, the second, your first-round pick out of Northwestern. And you got to feel pretty good. Your room got the top priority in free agency with John Johnson III, and now you get also the number 1 pick in the draft with Newsome. But, what did you love? Let's start with just on tape. What did you love about him on tape?
Yeah, just really want to, I really feel like the process that we went through here was really thorough. Very productive process. I think, AB, Paul DePodesta do a great job with what our process going through the draft, taking in information from a lot of different areas, this area scouts, coaches, medical, and just getting all those perspectives in and being able to talk through all that and then really gauge it out as far as how do we see all these guys collectively for our team. And just going through that process was, I think there were some things that were really unique to our process that I really enjoyed. I think the conversations were very, very productive. And, I enjoyed that going through that. Now, as far as, specifically with Greg, we spoke with him a few times. was able to sit down. It's the same thing. It's 2021. It looks a little bit different than what it has in the past, but kind of what we did was, Zoom calls, put some tape together of his play, and then really kind of had him talk through us, through his process as far as, what was he looking at? What was the techniques he was playing? Was he able to talk us through, big picture, what is their defense doing? And that was what was kind of stood out with Greg, was he had a really high football IQ. You could tell he not only knew what he was supposed to do, he knew what the whole back end was supposed to do, and then was able to look at an offense, recall plays like, hey, do you remember this play? Absolutely, I remember this play. And they weren't all great plays. Like sometimes we give them, what would you like back here? How would you have handled this differently? And it was kind of cool to see, like, he had a thought process. Like, this wasn't a great play. After it, I think I would try to do this, try to use this technique. My eyes were bad. And then, talking through the good things as well. Like, why were you able to make this play? And then you really kind of see how much the player is kind of reacting and how much is he playing with anticipation. And I think that's something that kind of stood out with Greg, is he's an intelligent player. It's more than just his physical ability that makes him who he is on the field.
That's got to be a fun process for you, right? Because I know that I would come up sometimes from the cafe and you guys were using that room kind of right up at the top of the stairs for these Zoom meetings. And of course you couldn't hear what was going on, but you knew something was going on. And for the players, that's an incredibly, probably high pressure interview situation, right? They want to make a great impression so that they can get drafted. And you can only learn so much on tape. You know what you see on tape, then that's the meat and potatoes, but getting that kind of the story around it and they're getting into their minds probably tells you as a coach a lot about how they would fit in your room and in your defense with the things you're going to ask them to do.
Absolutely. There's so much context that it's kind of hard to understand if you're not, in that system. You don't know what he's been told. You don't know what he's been coached. And so we're like grading off of kind of speculation. Like, I think this is the coverage. I think this is what he's been told. But, at the same time, you're able to be like, ask those questions, like, and get that perspective of how they've been taught, how do they see the game. And then as a coach, in my mind, like I've been through those conversations and I'm like, in my evaluation, I'll change it because it'll be like, well, he's been coached this. And if I feel like I can coach, I coach something a little bit different, I think he could be a little bit more productive. I try to find value in that.
Sure. Are those interviews, and obviously no specifics at all, but I would imagine they're very illuminating because in today's NFL, it feels like as much of the game is played, obviously you have to have the physical gifts to be on the field, but between the ears and the understanding of what offenses are trying to do to you with so many option routes and so many route combinations that are trying to trick a DB to maybe jump in when they're not supposed to. Is that becoming more and more important for you, for your players? You want them to not only obviously have the skills to play in the NFL, that's number one, but to be able to understand what's going on, because at least if you're mentally in the right position, you always have a chance to make a play.
Yeah, I think intelligence is extremely important. I feel like drive, grit are extremely important. I don't think you can undervalue those things. Just how important is football to you? Those are kind of the intangible things that I think, ultimately they're not probably valued as much, but I think that they're extremely important in football and really in life. And it's really cool to see because I think, Greg really checks all those boxes. And then as far as, football intelligence, I feel like the more a player has, the quicker that they're able to play. I was sharing a quote with them, this offseason. I doing some study on, reading different books. And there's this quote by Johan Cruyff, who's like the top soccer player ever. And he was saying at the highest level, all players run fast. The great players think fast. Because when I start running earlier than others, I appear faster. So those guys that think fast and can run fast, I feel like those are the special ones. And, hopefully we have some of those guys on our team.
Well, you certainly have guys that can run fast, and if they're thinking fast, they're going to be looking even faster out there for you, Coach. I like that quote a lot, and I want to go back to what you're talking about, the grit and the dedication and the love of football, because the game is becoming so sophisticated in a sense that it's got to become a lifestyle for you, right? As a player, to want to be a film junkie, to want to understand what the opponents are trying to do, to know their tendencies like the back of your hand so that you can make the right play in the right moment. Did you have a specific question that you like to ask, or a certain line of questions that you like to ask to really try to understand their work ethic and their dedication? Or does that come from the area scouts who are talking to their coaches? How do you try to understand that?
Yeah, so personally, I'll just ask them, hey, talk to me about press technique. And I see where their bottom is. And what I mean by that is how in depth will the player actually talk? Talk to me about your cover three. And then you just let them talk and see how deep into those details does that player get. And you'll be surprised, like the ones that I've been around that have been really, really good, Harrison Smith, Anthony Harris, even Xavier Rhodes talking about technique. Those guys could talk about the details of it for a long time. And they you just watch tape with them and they'll come up with, 10, 12 questions. And I think that's another part of it. Guys that are inquisitive are guys that, they're constantly asking questions. They're trying to get better at all times. I think the perception of the game allows those guys to play fast. What should I be looking at each given time, and what things should I be ignoring at that time, and then taking that information and being able to react quickly. That's kind of what I try to talk to those guys through, and just kind of see where they're at. And I feel like all that stuff is improvable. The more time that we get to spend with them as coaches, I think that we can improve all that process. But what you like is, particularly about Greg, is all those athletic attributes that he has, and then being able to tie in that process that we try to teach him, and hopefully we can make something great with him.
I mean, it's got to be crazy watching his tape and knowing that he gave up one completion of 10 yards in the air all season last year, which is, that doesn't even sound like a real stat when you say it out loud, and yet it is. So probably didn't have a whole lot of, what did you do wrong on this one? Because he didn't get burned too deep very often. And I think he had a quarterback rating allowed of 15.7 when he was targeted last year. So that's probably pretty good for him. Just wanted to ask you also about Richard LeCount, the safety out of Georgia, a guy who, the testing wasn't great coming off of that accident. But, when you put his tape on and you look at his production in the SEC, team captain, a leader, it looks pretty good. He seems to check a lot of boxes. Where do you see him fitting in your very versatile safety room?
Right. Excited to have Richard. Been able to speak with him a few times. We went through that whole similar process with Greg, and he really stood out with, his understanding of what they do. They have a great defense at Georgia. I think they run a lot of different things. He was able to talk through them, and he's performed at a high level, and I always try to take that into account. Playing at the SEC is different. You look at all those receivers that you're playing week to week, and they're all top 10 draft picks. That's different in other leagues. And, what stood out with him is you see, just being able to talk with him. He's an intelligent guy, was a captain, all the leadership traits that you hope for to see in players. He has those. And, we put a big emphasis on, the tape that he put out, and just studying that, and thought that he would be a competitive piece in our room.
Competition is going to be all over your room. It's going to be hard just to get on the field for guys that are used to playing probably every snap. It's going to be a challenge for those guys. It's going to be a challenge to make the roster in your room. That competition, have you already kind of maybe felt in the meetings that kind of heightened sense of, okay, it is on. We all have to be at our very best.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really feel like Kevin talks about that a lot. The importance of being competitive. We are competitors, and everything that we're doing is we're competing to try to be at our best. And so we shouldn't try to hide from it. because ultimately it'll make us better. And I've tried to instill that with the DBs. Like we talked about being 1% better every day. If we can be 1% better every day, if we're competing to be our best every single day, with the talent that we have, I think, things will take care of itself. If we're trying to win every single day, every competition, something that we try to do to compete is, in the virtual world we live in, we end up having like quizzes every night, and we post the results. It's like, what did we install the day before? They take the quiz on their phone, and then, none of it's mandatory, but it's fun, because they're competitors. They enjoy competing, and we try to have a little bit of fun with that.
I like that. And I think that, look, speaking of competition, we're talking here early on Wednesday morning. They released week 1 of the schedule. You want competition for your secondary group? Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs season opener. That has been announced already for the Cleveland Browns. It's where the season ended last year in the divisional round of the playoffs. And for a new look secondary, probably no better passing attack to get ready for to open the season than the Chiefs. So I imagine that'll be a fun one for your guys, knowing that, we're coming right out of the gate against the guy who can throw it all over the yard and one of the best and speediest receivers and one of the best tight ends in the game. And there's competition already, and that's kind of the mark of the Browns being good. That week 1, you get that matchup with the Chiefs prime time on CBS.
The thing that I think of, and this is the message I've been trying to have with our guys, and really to try to echo what Coach Stefanski talks about is, we're excited about what we have, but really hype doesn't win you anything. 2020 doesn't mean anything. Every year that I've been in the NFL, it's going to be a challenge, and you're going to see great teams like we're seeing week 1. And that's why it's so important that we make the most of this time, and we understand that how important our work is. So as our preparation, as we prepare for those, the better that we prepare, the better we'll be in those situations, and hopefully, go out there and compete and really make ourselves proud and make this organization proud.
How excited are you to get this group out on the grass? I mean, I know that,
it can't happen fast enough. I hope we can get out on the grass soon.
Absolutely. I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in your room. So much talent. You think of first and second round picks and prize free agents. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I know you referenced some of the guys from Minnesota. For a while, you guys had an elite secondary there in Minnesota. And I think it'll be fun to see that here for the Cleveland Browns, which certainly is, if they put the work in, it's on the table for that group.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking forward to working with them. That's what I've been telling them is I can't wait because it's different. When we're sitting on Zoom all day, it's cool to talk about, visualize, come up with those concepts, but actually going out and doing it and then working with one another. That's such a huge important part of it. You referenced Minnesota. We had a lot of good players that had played with a high understanding, but they knew how to play with one another. And that's kind of the piece that I don't think a lot of people recognize is when you can play off one another, like that's how you become extremely good. And looking forward to that opportunity to work with this group, and hopefully we can, get that kind of continuity with ourselves.
Yeah, that unspoken chemistry that comes from reps, right? That comes from being on the field and saying, oh, when they do this, I know he's going to go there, so I can go, oh, I see him taking, he's going to go gamble right now. I got to cover him. It's that kind of stuff. And
yeah,
that's part of the exciting part, but also part of the challenge when you bring in so much new talent that didn't play together, as we talked about at the very beginning. But it's exciting. Good problem to have, I think.
Yeah, it's game within the game. It's the fun part of it.
It certainly is, Coach. Always a pleasure talking to you. Excited, and I hope for you as well. Get those guys out on the grass soon and get started on what promises to be, an exciting 2021 season. As you said, nothing is guaranteed. No hype doesn't win games, but work does and talent does, and you got an opportunity to have both of those here in spades in your room.
Yeah, I appreciate your time, Nathan. I always enjoy coming and talking with you.
Likewise. Thanks, Coach. All right, we'll be back for more Cleveland Browns Daily right after this.
Are you on the injured list? We can help get you back in the game. Call 1-800-ELK-OHIO today for a free case review. Elk & Elk is a proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. It is a schedule release day. You will see the entire schedule, 7:30 tonight, Browns Live, Hoff, Clowney, Luminaries, all three of them. Going to get a full look at it before the NFL entire schedule is released for everybody at 8 o'clock on the NFL Network. So that's a good job out of you guys. That'll be fun, being able to react to what has happened. There's obviously been a lot of leaks out there. There are confirmed games, and certainly our opener with Kansas City, which was confirmed this morning, being a CBS game. That is the big, big chunk right there when that news came down that that's the way it was go. I thought there'd be a chance, Z. I did a bad job out of me thinking it would be Sunday night, not realizing that they already had Thursday night as first choice. So Nance Romo draws the long straw on this one and gets us against Kansas City to open it up.
Yeah, and you like that. You'll kind of like that CBS says, no, this is the marquee game here, and we're not letting you take it.
Yep.
You got Thursday night there, NBC. You'll get something on the other side there, and they ultimately go with the Bears and the Rams. But I think some intriguing matchups in Week 1, and I know you wanted to go through and kind of power rank
them.
The Week 1 schedule. And do you want to go worst to first or first to worst?
Well, I mean, obviously our game's number one for both of us. So let's take the suspense. I mean, that's clear. So then if you have that number one, let's go. I kind of think of it almost as tiers. Like there's a group of games where, yes, I will be watching that. Then there's a group of games where it's Week 1, of course. If it's, I'd pay attention to this for a couple of minutes. I find it intriguing. And then there's some games that I have just no interest in. So that's kind of the way that this thing goes out. But let's do the power ranking. Us Chiefs number one for me. I'm sure you had that as well.
Agreed. Yep, that was number one.
All right, who you got number two?
So I think there's kind of a tier of good games. I probably have 1, 2, 3, 4 that I'm pretty interested in. But I'll go with Steelers Bills as number 2.
Same. Yep, that's it. I mean, it's everything. We'll have Brook Pryor on at the bottom of the hour, but it's Buffalo looking to continue to ascend. It's looking at them as one of your chief competitors in the AFC, and it's Pittsburgh. What happened this offseason for them? Did they get right? Did they get healthy? How did that all go? They've largely ignored offensive line. Is that going to be a problem?
Yep.
Against that Bills defense. That's clearly it. The other games that I kind of have is like must watch. It's a combination of when they're being played and the people in them. So I really have 4 more games that I will be paying very close attention to. And you could kind of rank these any way you want. I'm with you. I did it kind of tier-wise. So I had Bucs-Cowboys in that game. It's Thursday night. You and I will do the coaches show, and then you'll go watch that game. That's a lot.
Yep.
And then the next couple are Ravens and Raiders.
Yep.
Monday Night Football. I'm into that. I'm watching that. Vikings at Bengals. I'm in.
That was down a tier for
Division
me.
Opponent.
That's down a tier for me.
Division opponent. It's on opposite us, so I can pay attention to it. So that one, and then I also had Bears and Rams in this group on Sunday Night Football.
Okay, I think the best game that you didn't mention in the 1 o'clock hour is Seahawks at Colts. I think I
have that right next. That's the very next game.
I like that one.
I'm very curious with the Wentz game. I think that's fun. Wentz's first game there. Yeah,
I'm curious to see that one. I'm curious to see the Chargers and the Washington football team, and I'm also curious in the 1 o'clock hour to see the Cardinals and the Titans. I think those 3 games are.
I had Cardinals, Titans, and Seahawks, Colts right there.
Okay.
They're 7 and 8 for me.
Yeah,
but some of that games. Again was because of the time of the games.
I like those better than Sunday night. That Sunday night game doesn't do much for me. I'll watch it because I want, but that doesn't.
It's personal because
if
of
Fields is starting. If it's Dalton,
Fields is starting, and then Stafford's been like my adopted son.
Yes.
For the last.
If
few
that's
years,
Dalton in that game, what does that do to that game for you?
Then it comes down. Then it's down. I'm assuming it's Fields. When I rank it here, I'm assuming it's Fields, Stafford, and then I think that's pretty intriguing.
Yeah, I think I also look Green Bay, New Orleans. I know there isn't Drew Brees, but Jameis with that team, still a good defense, and Green Bay, the intrigue around them. I think that's an interesting game also. I mean, and then you've got ones that are kind of fluff, right? Sam Darnold facing the Jets. Does anybody really care about that? I don't know. Trevor Lawrence's NFL debut.
Yeah.
Now, if that's Trevor Lawrence against Deshaun Watson somehow, that game's got a lot of juice to it. If it's Trevor Lawrence against Tyrod Taylor, which seems to be more likely at this juncture, not that interested.
No, I agree with you. I have those kind of in that next group with the football team, Jets and Panthers. I have the Packers kind of in this group as well. I think that has a chance to be a total dud. I'm surprised that Fox gambled what they did because that's the Joe Buck game.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
It's got to be.
It's got to be the Joe Buck game. So that's Buck and Aikman, Packers and Saints. I mean, if that's Jameis Winston and Jordan Love, are you sure? Better hope those brands carry weight, man.
Yes. I think the Saints are better than people think they are. I don't know that the Saints are an elite team that's a lock to make the playoffs.
No, I think they'll be fine, and I think they'll have Jameis ready. I think it'll be fine. I think there's just a lot of questions with that game, and I'm surprised that they would make it the Fox game. I really am. I think that's a big gamble. If what you're hearing on Rodgers, and certainly everybody says he's not coming back there, and if that's the case, and that's Jordan Love against Jameis, that's a tough sell.
Sure. Of course.
For Buck and Aikman.
Of course.
And then I think there's just 4 games. There's 3 games at the end. I don't have a whole lot of interest, like, for example, in the Dolphins and Pats.
None.
That's way down the list for me. I don't have much interest in the 49ers and Lions. I know that's a team of your youth, but I don't.
No,
really, unless Trey Lance is playing, but I don't think
because of the Lions, Jets, Panthers.
Right. Eagles Falcons is a tough one. I had that a little higher than those previous 2 games.
Sure.
Just because I think Ryan offensively with all those weapons will be kind of fascinating. And then the dog is Broncos Giants, right?
I think so. I think that's the least appealing game of the Week 1 slate. I mean, it's a pretty good Week 1 slate. Now they know that that's the dog because they know that between, Browns, Chiefs, Packers, Saints, Dolphins, Patriots, that game's kind of thrown away, and they're hoping that maybe some people in the New York market want to watch it. But all of a sudden, if that's an Aaron Rodgers-led Denver Broncos team, maybe that one becomes a little more interesting.
Oh, my gosh. Well, that changes everything, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I wonder do you think it is a strategic thing by Fox that they have the Broncos and Green Bay both in those windows?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's in play. Don't you think?
That they think, yeah.
I mean, I think that's definitely in play that you have it one way or another. Look, there's really no other team he can go to, is there, Z? Is there any other team that has ammunition, that's got young assets, that would have an ability to – who else that he would be on his wish list? I mean, what the heck would they want from the Raiders?
All right, let me just throw something silly out there.
Please.
But I felt yesterday when we talked with Jeff Zrebeck that beneath the surface in Baltimore, there are perhaps more concerns about the long-term viability of Lamar Jackson as their franchise quarterback than you would assume for somebody a year removed from being the MVP of the league.
I have no problem with that statement.
Okay. Again, I don't know the salary cap if this even works. But that if I'm the Ravens, me personally, I would put together a package with Lamar Jackson in a heartbeat for Aaron Rodgers. I feel like the Packers would have to, at a minimum, entertain said package. And if you're the Ravens, you drop him into an offense that has Hollywood Brown, Rashad Bateman, Mark Andrews, and a quarterback who can throw the ball, and Sammy Watkins is your third. That feels like a pretty – and J.K. Dobbins in the backfield. That feels like a pretty interesting, explosive offense that would be much easier to run for 5 years than what you're currently doing. You've got a decent defense. You have a defense that's definitely better with the lead. You got a good secondary. Is that a team that would be – because I feel like to trade a quarterback and not have it be insane, you've got to have a really good one, but also be a little skeptical about that person's trajectory over the next 5 to 10 years. So that makes sense to me. Would I hate that more than anything? You bet I would. Not a fan of that.
I was just going to say, don't you put that on me, Ricky Bobby. I don't want that. I don't want to even talk about that. I don't even want to entertain that. It's funny you bring it up, though, because when all of that nonsense was out there last week about putting him doing the Rodgers-Baker stuff, I kept thinking to myself, why is nobody doing Lamar Rodgers? Like,
Never
why is
came
that
up.
conversation not being had?
Nope.
Why is that conversation not being had? Because to me, that is an interesting conversation, is that one, right?
Yep. By the way, John Kuhn, people remember him, the fullback for the Packers, and every now and then he'd get a fantasy touchdown. He'd steal a touchdown from somebody at the goal line. Just said on the McAfee show with A.J. Hawks that I know just enough information to get myself in trouble between talking with Aaron, living in Green Bay, and still being employed by the Packers, but I do believe there's a chance and a decent chance Aaron Rodgers comes back. Now, A.J. Hawk, as he said that, it kind of shook his head, so I don't know how that discussion furthered, but that, to me, doesn't that feel like the most compelling possibility?
Well, if I were the Packers, the team that I would want to call would, if you open up the whole league, the team that I would want to call would be Arizona, and I would want Kyler, and I would want some of their young guys to come up to Green Bay. Give me that, because I know that Kyler can spin it, and he allows me to run what I want to run offensively. So if we're going to open up all the young quarterbacks, then that's the one that I would call for if I were Green Bay. Their combination of assets, quarterback who I'd get back, and this is predicated on us feeling like they don't want Jordan Love. He was inactive, so who knows?
I don't think they do.
But I think the Cardinal package is a pretty good package. And if they don't like Jordan Love, then that should be a fireable offense. Because the fact that you did that when you didn't have to and created all of this is a pretty remarkable thing.
100%, number one. Number two, I think if we talk to Kent Summers or whomever it was covering the Cardinals, I don't think that's on their radar. I think they love Kyler Murray. I'm saying I brought that up as a result of there's a little hesitation
result of
in
our
their
conversation.
Full-on commitment to Lamar Jackson. I don't think there is a full-on commitment.
I agree. I think they are in a big wait and see. I think the Lamar Jackson extension is one of the trickier conversations to be had in the league because he is beloved by his teammates. He is beloved by the fan base. He has won an MVP. We saw firsthand his impact when he was off the field and when he was on it at the end of the year last year. But there is a limitation, a ceiling to what you feel like is capable. So I just think he's the most tricky extension out there. And I agree with you. I think there's some validity to what you say. I don't know if Rodgers has a no trade or not. I mean, if he has any sort of power, like you said, they gave him a list, and it was the Vegas and Denver and the 49ers?
Saints, I thought.
Oh, yeah, Saints.
That's an interesting one. I just don't know what they can offer back. I mean, I think for him, you step into an offense with Kamara and Michael Thomas, and you say, okay, Sean Payton, I can do some things here. We got an excellent defense, at least in the short term. I just don't see what's their package that they can offer.
I don't see any package for New Orleans that would not, as soon as you make the deal, make them unattractive for Aaron Rodgers.
Correct.
That's why you keep coming. And I feel that way about the Raiders, too, by the way. To me, there's no package the Raiders would put together that I would want. I don't want any of their poo-poo platter. I don't want any of it. So your Ravens one is an interesting one for that, and certainly Denver. I think Denver's package is pretty attractive. You know? I mean, in terms of a position player standpoint. But that's saying that we like Jordan Love. So, again, I stand by what I said at the top. I think it's more likely that we're playing him on Christmas than it is Deshaun Watson's playing against Trevor Lawrence week 1. I still feel that pretty strongly about that I still would bet on that over the other.
Yep.
All right, we will go behind enemy lines. The Steelers it was number 2 on our list behind our game. They open at the Bills. What the Steelers did this offseason, what the trajectory is for the franchise heading into rookie minicamp. Brook Pryor will join us in about 15 minutes. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. Overseas includes buying or selling a home. Howard Hanna Real Estate Services has you covered. Visit howardhanna.com/go Browns today. And tonight at 7:30, Browns Live, Z, Hoff, Clowney, full schedule. Let's go.
Let's go is right. That's going to be fun. I can't wait to see it all play out. I feel like, we know week one, there have been some reports and breadcrumbs out there about Green Bay on Christmas Day, which is a little bit challenging to the family, I would imagine. But nonetheless, I'm curious to see how it all fills in, see how it all goes.
Yeah, really look forward to you guys breaking that all down, seeing who the home opener is, those type of games, when those divisional games are is exciting. Lots of fun to be had on that program tonight. Let's get.
I was just say real quick. When's the last time that you can recall the Browns concluding their season? And maybe I'm a bozo and it was last year, but it didn't feel like it because I wasn't, because it was different. But at home, did we finish it? What was our last?
Pittsburgh.
No, we were. Oh yeah, Pittsburgh. So last year we were at home, week 17. I forget because then we went to Pittsburgh the very next week.
Then we went there. Yeah.
It's felt like it's been. I mean, and that was a game of great consequence. But before that, I feel like we were at Cincinnati the year before. It feels like we're typically
Buddy,
on the road.
I did this all last year. Where I couldn't tell you where we played because it didn't matter. So there was many games where I couldn't remember if we played them home or away because I didn't even think about if it was home or away. It did, my experience was exactly the same. It was silent or very little crowd, and it was shot very tight, and it really didn't matter if you were home or away. So I look forward to that mattering this year, but I did that exact same thing all the time. Still do, where you look back on things, and even as you said that, I said, I'm pretty sure it was Pittsburgh, but you almost can't. There was no feel for it.
Well, I was at our stadium for every game, home and road.
Oh, that's right. You were there no matter what.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. There no matter what. Oh, that's right. So it was the Steelers, of course, and we played them twice in the last 3 games, including a playoff win.
That's right.
There was that incredible moment at the end of the season, at the end of our playoff victory, with Ben sitting there with Pouncey.
Yep.
And it felt like it's at the end for both of them. It certainly looked like the end for one of them. It was. Pouncey is done. Ben is back. You look at what this team has done. You look at Najee Harris in the first round. They were not very active in free agency, but they did retain a lot of their own guys are coming back. There will be health for them in the terms of Devin Bush returning. Obviously, T.J. Watt returns. Alex Highsmith. You forget how great their defense can be. They went old rather than young at corner, which I think is a little interesting. And it's just going to come down to, for me, it'll just come down to their offensive line. And if they can hold up, because they have a ton of skill at receiver, I think Harris is going to be very, very productive for them at tailback. It comes down to the line. It comes down to Ben.
It sure does, and that's going to be a fascinating story to watch. This is a team that, 11-0? And then they lose
11-0, right? Yeah.
11-0. They lose 4 out of their final 5, 5 out of their final 6 when you count the playoff loss to the Browns. And you're talking about losing to the Bengals without Joe Burrow, blowing a lead, against the Colts. And they were just a team that looked a little bit lost. And you wonder, does Ben have it anymore? Because I thought Ben's second half of the season last year reminded me a lot of what we saw in spurts from Drew Brees in 2019 when you said,
agree,
it's starting to go away. I don't know if he can get that back. And really through 2020, he felt cooked. He still had some nice games here or there, but it felt cooked. And certainly as the season progressed and you saw when he had to throw the ball more than 20 yards in the air, he was cooked. So without Ben, I think their defense got significantly worse from a year ago to today. I don't think they're going to be a team that's going to be able to win a lot of shootouts. Their line did not get better. We'll talk with Brook Pryor in a second. But they're a team very much at a crossroads because they made some decisions to reward older players and let talented younger guys go, which is typically not the right way. Now, they've done a great job of being relevant for a heck of a long time. So you give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they come out and they have a great season, but they seem like a team that is ripe to have a precipitous fall this year and then kind of look up, if that happens, and say, where do we go from here?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think all of those things are there for them. I still think that they will be pretty fierce up front in the front seven. They will get after the quarterback. It is going to put so much pressure on their corners. Justin Lane, of course, our good buddy Joe Hayden. They are going to have to really they've got a lot of youth behind that. That's where they went old instead of going young with Joe still being there. I thought that was an interesting move to make, certainly, and you have nothing but respect and love for Joe, certainly. I thought it was interesting their first two picks were a running back and a tight end. I thought that was interesting when you considered some of the needs that they have.
Yep.
Their offensive line situation is a fascinating one, what they've done there, something that had been a strength of the team. And yet they still have those receivers that are plenty skillful. And Roethlisberger, it's one of those things where you could really see it as it got colder. His arm was less and less effective.
Correct.
And this is what happens with Tommy John. It's the same thing. If your arm is iffy as anyway, and his post-injury was iffy anyway, and then you add cold weather, it's the same. This is the reason Dalton had trouble in the postseason when he was in his prime for Cincinnati. He couldn't drive the ball down the field. You need to have a howitzer to be able to drive the ball in these northern climates in January. You have to, and he didn't. And that's how it happened. And so you add that, a guy who historically, look, he's got to go against habits. His habit is to hold on to the ball longer than anybody else and chuck it deep. That's what he's done for much of his career.
Yep.
Now, neither of those things work.
Yep.
You can't hold it because you don't have the type of protection you used to have, and you don't have the arm strength you used to have. So he's going to have to change the way, and he started to morph into that last year, but even more so for them to be successful. I think there's a chance for this to go way off the rails, and I say that with full respect for what they are as a franchise, which has been tremendous. It really has.
Incredible.
Obviously, you and I view it from our vantage point. We'll ask Brook Pryor, who views it from a day-to-day standpoint in Pittsburgh for ESPN. She will join us coming up next. You'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
Hey, Beau, did you get that perfect power wash read? Hey, Beau.
Bo.
What's that, buddy?
Did you get that perfect power wash read? I think, Jordan sent it. They wanted you to record a new 30. It's up to you. If it's easier to do it tomorrow, I can let them know.
Is it it's just a 30?
Yeah, it's like a 30, a new spot.
And I could do it with you now if
You want to do it now?
Let me see. Let me look at this. I could do it now or in the next break, whichever one works for you.
You want to knock it out right now? I'm rolling.
Yep.
Go ahead.
3, 2, and 1. It's time to spring into action because Perfect Power Wash's schedule is filling up faster than ever. Demand is skyrocketing. Stop neglecting your home. Refresh, don't replace. Remove mold and algae and make it look beautiful again with the help of the pros at PPW. I called PPW. It only took 5 minutes to schedule. Now everything looks great. I'm enjoying my home now more than ever. Rain or shine, it's the perfect time to use the promo code BEAU. Get 10% off. Call 888-860-WASH and refresh your home now. Into Cleveland Browns Daily as we continue behind enemy lines with the Pittsburgh Steelers. When we talk Steelers, we like to talk to Brook Pryor, ESPN Nation Steelers reporter, joining us on the hotline. Brook, thank you so much for taking the time. Let's just, where we are now, how do you view the Steelers? Are they a contender in your mind? Have they done enough to answer some of the questions that they had going into, obviously you have mini camp and rookie reporting and all of those things?
I think the Steelers would like to think that they're contenders, and they did do a lot to address some of the shortcomings that they had last season, and really for seasons beyond that. I mean, by drafting Najee Harris with the first pick in the first round and number 24 overall, that answered a huge question, a huge hole they've had at the run game. And I think that one of the problems they've had recently is just this offense that isn't balanced at all, that's relying on Ben's elbow. Do you really want to do that 17 games this year? I think the answer is no. And I think that they are trying to build a team that will be a contender, knowing that this has been Roethlisberger's last season. It was kind of up in the air about whether or not he would even come back for this season. But I look at the moves that are being made, even just around the division, and to me, the Steelers are chasing something that it kind of feels like their best hope to make a run was last year when they got off to such a hot start. And this is a team that obviously had holes, had injuries that really hurt them on the defensive side, losing guys like Bud Dupree and Devin Bush. But, they don't have Bud Dupree this year. Devin Bush is back coming off that injury. But I think the Steelers they're going to try, just like every team is going to try. But to me, it just feels like that window has closed, even though they did make some picks to really address some of the big holes that they have on the roster.
And, Brook, when you look at that, the question becomes, okay, because we saw Ben played very, very well. The first 9 games, I think he only threw an interception. Of 2 of those, he throws an interception basically in every game, but that come from behind win over the Colts over the second half of the season, including the 4 interceptions in the playoff loss to the Browns. If Ben isn't able to do it, kind of to your point we were talking before you came on, where does that leave them at the end of this year? Because they made some interesting decisions in free agency to let some younger corners go. You keep Joe Hayden, who we love certainly from our time here in Cleveland. You bring Ben back. It's kind of a unique mix of some of the younger players they've got, but a lot of veterans, and you kind of just don't see, all right, this is our one last hurrah. It feels like, to your point, but in a very difficult division. Where do you see this team at the end of 2021, let's say, if they don't make the playoffs?
I mean, I think that they would be then in a good spot to draft a quarterback next year. Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season in Pittsburgh, but at this point, I mean, I don't want to say that they're bound for a losing season at this point, right? I mean, it's May. There are so many things that have to happen, but the Steelers have the toughest strength of schedule based on the 2020 opponents' win-loss records. You look at that, you think, gosh, it would really help here if you had a younger quarterback, but it seems like right now the Steelers team is caught between wanting to do a rebuild, having some younger guys, but then also being stuck in the past and trying to give, these veterans another chance, trying to supplement them with some younger guys. But it just feels like this team is in a little bit of an identity crisis at this point. I mean, they have Mason Rudolph. We know how that went a couple of years ago, but you know what? I'm not ready to write Mason Rudolph off quite yet. I think that he has made some improvements in practice, bringing in Matt Canada. They're still investing in Mason Rudolph. They signed him to a 1-year extension. They still believe that there could be something there. They bring in Dwayne Haskins. So they're trying to prepare for the future and to prepare for a post-Ben world, but they're still, hoping to give Seven another chance for a ring. And I just don't know if the moves that they made in free agency were aggressive enough. And they were handicapped because of the salary cap. I don't know if they were ever going to be able to make the moves to give him another realistic shot.
Well, Brook, just from the organization standpoint and even Ben's standpoint, what would lead you to believe? Because just from our vantage point, you saw a fall off very clearly in arm strength as the season went along and as the weather got colder. What would lead them to? Is there any science out there that says somehow it's going to get better with a year? It's hard for me to think that there would be any.
Well, the crazy thing is, while his arm did look to have a fall-off in terms of interceptions, there were some questionable decision-making things. his average air yards per attempt actually went up in the last 4 games of the season. So to me, that showed that he was pushing the ball down the field more. It felt like he was taking it upon himself to say, look, guys, like I can still throw the ball. And I do think that them going from Randy Fichtner to Matt Canada as offensive coordinator is going to help because they need to be more creative on the field. It can't just be Ben doing backyard football because we heard earlier this week, I think it was Marlon Humphrey said, yeah, I heard Ben tell the receivers exactly what routes to run. I mean, that just says that what is your offensive coordinator doing if the quarterback is telling the receivers where to go on every single play? They can't go a whole season like that. And so I think the Steelers are hoping that, hey, maybe with a new offensive coordinator, some new ideas, things were working well earlier in the season when they were using more of Canada's ideas, the pre-snap motion, the disguises, the jet sweeps. If they can incorporate more of that and stick with it, I think they could have some more success. But, I think this is also with Ben. He said, hey, I'll know when I need to hang it up, when I can't play at the level I need to play. And he still believes that he has more left in the tank. So I think the Steelers, because of the history, because how long he's been here, they also want to believe it. They're not ready to part with it. So I think that because he was able to take a reduction in salary and reduce his cap hit, I think they said, okay, let's, one more shot. Why not? Let's go with this because the other options that they had weren't great. They were never, going to go out and get a Carson Wentz or any of the other available quarterbacks on the market, and they were never going to trade up to draft a quarterback. So you might as well stick with the guy you've got.
And they're doing that. What do you make of kind of the transition on the offensive line? Some long stalwarts of the Steelers no longer to be on that offensive line, and you invested a first-round pick, obviously, in Najee Harris, who's an excellent running back and hopes to breathe some life into that ground game, but it also will take the guys up front. So where do you think the state of the Steelers line that had been one of the unquestioned strengths of that team for so long resides now, knowing you've got, as you pointed out, an aged Ben Roethlisberger behind them?
Right. I think the offensive line is one of the more interesting units to watch for the Steelers going into the season because you're losing Marquise Pouncey, you're losing Al Villanueva, and I really thought the Steelers would use that first-round pick on a tackle, seeing the guys who were available there, or then at the very least use their second-round pick on a tackle. They did neither, obviously. They went with Pat Freiermuth because he was available, and tight end is a position of need, although it felt kind of like a luxury pick at that point.
Sure.
I am intrigued to see what Kendrick Green can do moving from guard to center. He only played center 4 times at Illinois, but they believe in him that they can, that he was showed enough promise that he could be the guy to succeed Marquise Pouncey, but there's going to be a learning curve there going from 4 games in the Big Ten to being a starter in the NFL. But they like his mean streak. I think you saw with the picks that they made an emphasis on drafting guys, especially on the offensive line, who have reputations for being mean, for being nasty players. Because last year, talking with the guys, they noticed that there was a drop-off in the physicality, in that tough streak. And so I think that it is a point of emphasis to make sure that that doesn't happen this year. But the line, as it stands now, I would see Chuks Okorafor moving over to left tackle. That's where Mike Tomlin said he's penciled in. Zach Banner at right tackle, right guard, David DeCastro. I guess Kendrick Green at center, maybe J.C. Hassenauer, maybe B.J. Finney. That's kind of up in the air, and then I think left guard is going to be Kevin Dotson. But it's going to be a young line, and I'm interested to see how well the tackles do. They must really believe in Okorafor and Banner to not sign anybody in free agency and to not use a high draft pick on a tackle.
Yeah,
Brooke, it's interesting talking to you. And Brook Pryor joining us from ESPN. It's interesting talking to Riz and Z, talking to Brooke, because she's echoing a lot of the concerns that we had. And so, Brooke, you're almost to the point where you say, look, these guys have never fallen off. Like, they've never fallen off a cliff. Like Nathan and I we were talking before you came on. We thought if ever there was a candidate for a team to maybe fall off a cliff, for many of the concerns that you have and are similar to the ones that we had about them and about this roster. But it's almost like you just have to trust them because they've earned it, right?
Right. I mean, it was kind of crazy. I was watching Get Up earlier this week, and they were making their picks for the AFC North. Nobody picked the Steelers. And I don't have the scientific stats on this, but, I mean, that has to be the first time in a long time that not one of 4 panelists favored the Steelers to win the division. I mean, they are always at the top, but I mean, it took them. I just think that we're about to enter some uncharted territory, or at least territory that I was not born for, of the Steelers just kind of trying to figure out their identity again, to try to become stable again. I think that we're in for a transition period that we haven't seen in a really long time. But at the same time, I mean, they have earned just, wait and see. They'll figure something out. Like I said earlier, Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season in Pittsburgh. There's always some kind of magic that he can work. Even when Mason Rudolph was his quarterback, he didn't have a losing season. So I think that they'll figure something out to not go completely over the cliff. But, I mean, it felt like they already started down that hill late last season, and they're going to have to do significant work to make sure that they don't continue that trajectory when the season opens in Buffalo, of all places. That is going to be a very tough season opener. Like I said, there's a lot of time to go before we actually play that first game, but could be an ugly one.
It's going to be interesting, and it's going to be a real test for this defense. And I kind of alluded to it earlier, but a new look cornerback room in many ways is some of the, some Steven Nelson, who we've heard, drawing interest from 14 teams. He departed. What do you kind of make of this defense? No more Bud Dupree. Alex Highsmith, who played in that role last year, will really step into it this year. But, you mentioned it. Their first, 4 picks on offense this year were all on the offensive side of the ball. Not much to address a defense that I think it's hard to say is where it was at the beginning of last year.
Right, exactly. I mean, I think Bud Dupree is going to be a huge loss because the level of play, while Alex Highsmith was good for a rookie, it still dropped off once Bud Dupree went out. I think inside linebacker, if I'm the Steelers, I feel better about that position than I did even a couple months ago, because you've got Vince Williams back after, they had to release him with salary cap concerns. He's now re-signed. Devin Bush is healthy again. You've got Robert Spillane, who came on and played really well last season. The cornerback position, though, losing Mike Hilton really, really hurts because he could do everything there. Keeping Cam Sutton was incredibly important, and he could maybe fill the Mike Hilton role, but then who's the other corner? If they could just replicate Cam Sutton and have him play both of those positions, they'd be great. But that obviously, we're not there. They have Justin Lane. They drafted Trey Norwood, who they believe can be kind of a Swiss Army knife. But I don't see him stepping up and being Mike Hilton. Nobody is Mike Hilton. That's why he had so much attention in free agency. But that's going to be tough. And you look at, the rest of the division, that's not a position where you want to have question marks. So I think that this is Justin Lane's best opportunity to step up. He's a third-round pick a couple of years ago. This team is lucky that they still have Joe Hayden. But I think losing Steven Nelson is going to really hurt. And that was the decision they made with cap space. But, man, you hate to release a guy like that who, like you said, is now drawing significant interest and could have really helped out this team this year.
Brooke, excellent stuff as always. We appreciate you a great deal. Thanks for giving us a little bit of your time today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
All right, that's our good friend Brook Pryor of ESPN. You think about it. The last time that they had a losing record was 2003 with Bill Cowher.
Yeah.
The next year they lost, and then 2 years later they won the Super Bowl. But they went 15-1 the next year. So they went 6-10, and then they went 15-1. So that would have been Tommy Maddox to Roethlisberger. They went 6-10 in '99 with Cowher as the coach at that time. That's a Mike Tomczak situation with your quarterback at that point. So that tells you kind of where you were in 1999. But in consecutive losing seasons, you got to go 85-86.
It's incredible.
That's a Mark Malone era. At 7-9, 6-10. They were pretty middling at the end of Chuck Noll with Mark Malone to Bubby Brister, where they went 7-9, 6-10, 8-7, 5-11. But even then, they went 9-7, 9-7, 7-9 as they transitioned from Noll to Cowher. But they just haven't had it. They just haven't had losing seasons. They had the 2 6-10s in 30 years. They had the 2 6-10s with Cowher 5 years apart, and 2 years after the last one, they won the Super Bowl.
Incredible. It's incredible, and that's why you give them the benefit of the doubt. But I think you know, it's easy to see kind of where some of the potential shortfalls come. But when you've been that good for that long, as you said, they seem to always find a way. And you can't take them lightly.
But I thought that was interesting because she had a lot of the stuff that you and I said. Like, it's not like we're just seeing this through orange and brown colored glasses. You know, like it's reality.
Yeah.
It's the reality, you know, but it's almost like, well, they've never fallen off, so maybe they won't. It seems to me like they're ripe for it. Still so much more to come. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. What they need to hear for tonight, my friend.
All right, 7:30. Get ready, load it up. Browns Live. Myself, the Hoff, Joe Thomas. We'll kick it off with Jadeveon Clowney, and we will give you the complete biggest Browns schedule ever. There's never been a 17-game schedule before. We'll give you the full schedule tonight exclusively on Browns Live before you can get it anywhere else. So watch it, youtube.com/Browns. Let's go.
Wow. Very exciting. Really looking forward to see who that home opener is, see where those divisional games line up, see if we get some confirmation on that Christmas game in Green Bay. Lots to look forward to on that front. Going to be a lot of fun. Look forward to watching you and Hoff and Mr. Clowney. Once I get done with a little baseball, I'll have it in the DVR and ready to go.
Beautiful.
So look forward to that very, very much. Very much. We are back tomorrow for more fun. The next level is coming up next. Thanks for listening, everybody. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.
You've been listening to